Well, it's pretty impressive that even when I'm not on my own stream, I can manage to stall the MSQ. But today we are going to be doing something very interesting. We promised you on Allcraft that we were going to have even more devs on the show, get to talk about a whole bunch of games, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. We are joined with the devs from V-Rising. We have a lot to talk to them about. Peter and Martin, welcome to the show. I think it makes a lot of sense right now to actually start off with just giving a little introduction to both of you for everybody in chat so they can get to meet you. Peter, if you want to start off and let everybody know who you are.
Thank you, and it's really exciting to be here with you today, guys. I'm Peter. I'm the game director at Stunlock Studios. I'm also one of the founder of the company, so I've been here from the start. And in my role, I basically work with all departments of the game. I work on the vision, the game designs. I work with our engineers, our artists, sound, music, marketing, you name it. So I'm like on top of all different parts and in depth with the development. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'm Martin, and I'm working as creative director for V-Rising. I also joined or founded the company together with Ilves, and I think we were 12 other students from the university. Oh, wow. And my role is mostly focused on all of the in-game or like the game itself, and not so much around the thing outside of the game. So I try to push the game into different, like following our vision and coming up with all new kind of cool features. And Peter is the one who tried to hold me back, and he's more responsible of like delivering on time and deliver with the quality we want. So he's holding me back, and I'm trying to push forward. So.
You're the dreamer, and he's the business.
Exactly. But yeah, we work very much too close to each other and working on implementation of features and those things as well. So
I wouldn't say I'm the businessman. Like I'm the VP as well, so I do have that on my end. But I'm also a big dreamer, and I'm also loving all the things we're doing. So we've been working together since the start, me and Martin. So like we know each other outs and ins.
When was the start?
So we did like meet up in the story is that we met up in 2007. I think I met Martin. Ooh. And we were both student going to university here in Skövde, this little town in Sweden where we are located, and we were studying game development. And at that time we were both like avid World of Warcraft players, and we met up and ended up on a project in the school at the same time. And I remembered I was playing in a guild named Cursed at the time, and we're like we were competing for world first bosses, and I had this like I always wanted to be a game developer, and I've been living like World of Warcraft had been my life for about 3 years now at that point. Mm-hmm. And that when I had was like like changing point in my life where I had to choose, should I like continue playing World of Warcraft or should I go into game development, because now I had really like I did not have time for both at that time. And I met with Martin, that's also been like an avid World of Warcraft player, and we just connected really good at that time.
I came more from like before I played World of Warcraft, I played like Warcraft 3 on like high level, played and Grandmaster League and stuff like that. And then World of Warcraft came out and I just got hooked into that. We didn't fight for world first, but we fight for server first. And we still like cleared Nax on Classic, which is only like 5%, I think. And I think I started like game development just for a reason to kind of continue play and meet other gamers. So that's why.
That's incredible. Oh my God. So you guys, it's not like something you just played a little bit. You guys have played a lot of the same games that we have, and to be honest, like more seriously than us.
That's I still haven't cleared Nax. To be well, unless you can't count the Wrath version, I did manage to do that. But it's kind of funny to see that you guys kind of started everything that You did in World of Warcraft the same that Asmon and I did as well. But for you guys, obviously V Rising wasn't the first step. Battlerite was the first game that you guys actually did put out, correct?
Actually, it was Bloodline Champions was our first title, and Battlerite is the like the successor of that basically. So, Bloodline Champions was like very inspired by World of Warcraft actually. Like many think that it was the MOBAs that was our like main inspiration to the game, as it's like many times said as it's the MOBA without like the laning and all the bullshit. But in reality, it was like we were playing a lot of World of Warcraft PvP. I was playing a lot of Arena, and that was the main inspiration. We wanted to make an arena game, a PvP arena game that took the things that we really loved from World of Warcraft, but like did it in our way and we like refined
to be
it.
honest, we didn't like the randomness, like the resist of kidney shot and stuff, and say like let's make an arena game without the bullshit, basically.
You know what? I can really relate to that. I really can. I totally do. And that's incredible. So you just took matters into your own hands. You made this game. And then after that, I guess you made, like, I just looked it up, pulled it up on Steam. You made one other game before then. Then you made Battlerite. Battlerite did pretty well.
Yeah, Battlerite was like our real breakthrough hit back in 2016. And it's like the refined experience of Bloodline Champions. So we spent some years, as I said, we started as a group of students. I think we were 14 actually. And at that time in 2008, like we started working on Bloodline Champions, and then we eventually founded the company. And as of today, we're still 12 of the founders back from 2008 are still in the company. So I think that's one of like our biggest strength that has allowed us to push through the years, as we've had both ups and downs. When we released Battlerite, that was like one of the best moments, of course, in our life, and seeing how well it was received, like seeing how this many players just like flooded into the game, and it was a really cool moment in the history of Stunlock.
Well, I bet. I mean, it must have been like a massive accomplishment to have like such a game do so well and just kind of pop off like that. And we're seeing it happen again now with V Rising. I mean, I've seen it in the top 10 charts for Steam. There are just tons of people that love the game. And I mean, how do you feel about like everything that's happened since it's not even really the full release, but since it's been made to the public?
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, we didn't expect the huge kind of impact it had. We had our hopes, but it was just way above our imagination.
Yeah, it's an amazing like release. We couldn't hope for these numbers, and I think we're also a bit like it was a very different game to develop. Maybe we'll come into that a bit later, but it didn't have that instant like adrenaline kick that you get from Battlerite, and we had a lot of like fun developing and playing Battlerite even early in the development cycle, while V Rising was a much bigger, more ambitious project that it took like years before we could even play it. So it's two very different games. It was really a relief, as always, when you release a game when you've been working on it for 3 years' time, to see that it's actually flying.
It is popping off.
I was very curious, like, because the games, they're definitely, you can see some threads of similarity for sure, like with how they feel, but very different games, like you mentioned. What made you start to design V Rising after Battlerite? Was it learnings that you actually had from the title, or was it just an idea that came up and you started to move into it?
So there's like, you want me to start, Martin, or do you?
Yeah, you can start it.
Yeah, okay. So at that time we did struggle a lot with Battlerite. We like had issues with like getting the game on its feet, and we tried a lot of things, and we come to like this point in Stunlock where we had to sit down and talk together with the other founders, which we've always done after a project, and see where do we want to bring it next. At that point, we like saw that we had to shift focus to something new. But we did want to bring like what have we learned, what are our learnings. And in Battlerite, we have this very adrenaline fueled, very intense combat experience. It's very reminiscent to a fighting game actually. It's super fun. You're playing it, but you eventually, or most players, got really burnt out very quickly on that experience. So we had always had trouble like with working with the retention factor and getting players back there. We created new content, but players were just burning through it too quickly. And we'd scale up the studio, so we were about like 50 people at that time. And we just, for the first time in Stunlock, we had to like scale back. We had to scale down the studio, and that I think was one of the hardest part for us, because we are this very small developer, but we have like more like a family, I would say. I think that comes from having this core of developers that we've always been working together. But from that, and from that, having those people close by us, our like colleagues that are totally amazing, we found this energy, found this ambition to start something new. And we wanted to take this like combat system, this fun, this fuel that we have, and we also wanted to find a core loop where we can combine our strengths with something that is a bit more relaxed, something that doesn't like burn you out. So we had a lot of like discussions and ideas for how we could like, what sort of genre can we combine this with that would make a perfect fit. So we talked about like can we find some PvE element, and how can we find a way to not only have this combat orientation, can we find something more creative where you can build, where you can maybe play together with your friends. And maybe Martin, you want to like add something to that?
As you said, like we're very strong in creating multiplayer, so we know that's like one big strength. And when we try to look at like the survival genre, which is very popular, and we felt like there's a lot of survival games that maybe is only solo or co-op, and we could bring our experience from like multiplayer PvP and create something new in this. And that's where we kind of felt like the survival genre also helps us to give that kind of pacing issue that Ilves talked about, to give that control to the players. Like if you want to have high action, you can go out and go for bosses, you can go out and go to those kind of highly combat areas. And if you want to relax, you can just start to like decorate your castle and focus on gathering trees. So I think those were so strong to solve that kind of big issue we had from our previous title. And that's where like kind of the vampire team eventually ended up, because we felt like we were used to create like champions with lots of magic and different abilities, and we wanted to kind of have a theme that kind of can fit to that. If we would go more like realistic, we would be very limited to what we can do. And then like when we found the vampire team, it's what made so much sense, because we could use magic, and like vampire in its core is like this kind of hunt for blood, right? Yeah.
Like that day, like we sat down, I know I was in my office, and we had like R&D, a couple of different games, different prototypes, and we're talking about what is this theme? What is the theme? Like we know what the systems, what the game we want to make, but we don't know what can we package this? What is this theme? And I think we discussed like these more generic fantasy themes. I think we also like discussed Norsemen and Vikings, and that would have been a bit embarrassing today if we'd gone with that. But no, Martin came into my office like on a Monday, and he's been, I think you'd like watched the entire like Castlevania Netflix series.
Yeah.
And you just came in with this confidence and said, I got it. Like, I know what we're going to do. I haven't never like seen Martin that confident in my life. And it's like, and then he pitched the idea, like you wake up in this coffin, you feel like a hunger for blood, and you grab a rat and you like suck it dry. You're like this vampire that has just awoken. You've like been stripped out of all your powers. You need to go out in the world and rebuild your gothic big castle, and it's anarchy. All the vampire clans are rising and are just fighting each other, and you need to become the next Dracula. And it's like, at that moment, it's like, yes,
Yes.
So no discussion.
Well, you put a lot of
make this
effort.
game.
Yeah, you put so much effort into like making the different, like the small nuances of vampires, like this is a consistent thing that you experience throughout playing the game. It's not like, oh, you burn in sunlight. It's like the silver. It's like the conspicuously counting things of them being like OCD kind of. And it seems like you really put a lot of effort and time into making sure that whenever somebody is playing V Rising, they don't forget what the V stands for.
Yeah. I think that's so much strength with the vampire theme as well. Because if we come up with like our own fantasy theme, it's so hard to relate, right? And the vampire theme, like everyone knows about vampires and knows their weaknesses. So that's also such a big strength in the survival genre that you can actually, before you even play it, you can actually kind of get a feeling of how would it be to be a vampire in this world, and that's very strong in this kind of genre as well. So.
One of the things, but one of the things we did early was to establish that we wanted to play on as many of these traits as we possibly could, and it wasn't always easy. Like it took a long time for us to come up with all these mechanics, but we really like in our vampire fantasy. We talked many times about it like more of a vampire simulator. If you were like a vampire, what would happen to you? So we really tried to just encompass all these different traits and make fun use of them.
Yeah, I was a huge fan instantly of the genre. Like you mentioned, getting magic in a survival game is pretty rare. And for me, blood sucking is something that I love. I mean, it's pretty core to my identity as a human being. So the second that I started to see everything, I was like, man, this game really does make a lot of sense to me. I loved getting to sling the magic. But one of the coolest things that I think that you did is you took all of those tropes, like Asma mentioned with the silver, with being weak to the sun as a vampire, and also even just the blood sucking itself. And not only did you have it there, it's just like, oh, the sun's going to kill you. Like when it's day, you're going to die. But there are these really cool twists to all of them. Like the feeling of running around as a wolf with like everybody that you're playing with on the server and running around looking for shade is such a satisfying moment that I never expected to have in a vampire game. And then those moments when you're actually in combat with different mobs, and you're like, oh my God, this is a 100% blood type. This is gonna, like, I'm gonna make sure that I like get this brute right now. It's another really satisfying and deep moment in the game. And I'm kind of curious, how did those ideas evolve a lot over time? Did you go, oh, okay, we're gonna start adding to the actual like feed system. We're gonna add to the sunlight, or were some of these ideas just core to the development process and you knew from day one they were gonna be there?
Yeah, as you can say, the vision was there kind of early, like the sun mechanic, obviously, and the feed, but all of the system has really been like developed over time and adapted to changes in other features and the bosses, and it's had like lots of the things kind of appear to us as an epiphany, like playing versus a boss during the night, and it's like, yeah, this is easy, I can just dodge this nowhere, and then the sun rises and suddenly you're like, shit, I
had that happen.
Yeah, and that's
yes.
That's a kind of very satisfying feeling to see how impactful the sun system is and how you actually have to kind of think about it. So
it gets even better whenever they destroy the trees around you and the shade that you thought you could rely on is now gone. Yes, I've had this experience very clearly.
Yeah, we had a really fun moment in that when we were like stress testing the game, and we were like, I think we're like 60 vampires fighting the endgame boss, and just for stress testing it, and then there was only one tree, and the sun came up, and it said 60 vampires were standing under this one tree where like this real big boss were like looking at them. What are they doing?
Yeah, one thing that I really liked about the game, I just want to say real quick, is that, like, obviously there's been many comparisons. Other games, one of the main ones, Valheim, right? I played through Valheim. I did all of that. And one thing that I really did appreciate with it is the fact that you have, like, a much more involved PvE system. I've been too afraid to go to one of the PvP servers yet. I've watched people play a lot, but I've been too afraid to lose all my stuff. But doing the PvE content just by yourself and slowly progressing is actually a pretty fulfilling experience. And there's a lot of levels to it. And I found it to be very enjoyable to just kind of work through them and then find the next boss. And then some of the end game bosses, they're no joke. Like this is like, I thought it was going to be like one of those easy games that does like 2 abilities. No, I was impressed.
I think again, it's like some of this inspiration is very old school MMOs as well, and also being from Battlerite, being a more hardcore PvP game. We didn't like we wanted to go more of this for this core gamer or a bit more hardcore. So we wanted to nail that balance, and we were like in development and asking ourselves, obviously, is it too hard? Is it too easy? But we were always let's rather go too hard than too easy. That's like what we wanted to do.
Yeah, we focus a lot to like just add so much setting as possible, so players can like actually tune down the difficulty. But we think it's really important to have it like as a survival game. It can't be too easy, because then it's kind of boring. It feels more like a grind, like I'm just gonna clear the content, but more go like actually feeling like killing a World of Warcraft boss for the first time, like that kind of feeling.
I know that kind of feeling when you're like
world first. No.
Yeah, I definitely don't know the world first feeling, but I will say that there were a lot of really good feelings with those bosses too. I love like the actual tracking system, right? Where you go to the altar and you kind of set out on a day and you're like, this is my main goal. But I think one of the things that the game also does that's very cool is the emergent moments, right? You're going for a certain boss and now it's like, oh, there's the vampire hunter, or there's this boss. Do we have that one yet? Or are we going to suck him dry? And I feel like there are so many little emergent things. And as somebody who went to school for game design and really only got opportunities to work on bad games, how do you guys plan for those emergent moments? Like, what do you actually, like, how do they get built in over time?
I think that was one of the early things that we wanted to adopt, like, because we're a small team, and we knew we like couldn't create enormous worlds with too much content. So we're always talking about how can we create like a dynamic world, and how can we have these emergent moments. And the sun is obviously one of those things that really changes things up, but also the global patrol systems that like these different units, the bosses can patrol the entire world. In conjunction with like other players, with the sun, and trying us to like find these moments that are not scripted, but where the systems just play into one another. And that's also one of the aspects that we really want to that we're looking at right now when we're going forward. How can we create even more accesses which more emergent gameplay can occur, like weather system, for example, like the blood moon right now, these kind of events as well, that when you layer them on top of one another, like we can create these stories or these events where you're playing it for like maybe the third or fourth times, but you're still like getting these new types of histories or experiences.
First time I hit a blood moon, I started LARPing, dude. I like couldn't even help it. I was just yes. like I rise from my coffin. Like I just went full on like, and I think the game does a really good job at opening up. I kind of, this is going to be a really weird analogy. Sorry, I sometimes make them, but it was like the first time that I watched Naruto. I kept feeling, I'm sorry, man, I'm a weeb, but the world opens up more and more. And as you get deeper and deeper into the story, you start to, stop making fun of me. You really start to feel like, a ninja yourself. You know what I mean? And I was watching that show and I was like, oh man, the Jinchuriki. And I'm like, maybe I'm a Jinchuriki. Maybe that's why I'm a little bit off. I am Naruto. I felt very much the same way with your game, and I felt like all of the gameplay mechanics that open up as you take down that first boss, then you actually have the blood altar, you start to build your castle, and as the different systems open up, you get more and more interested in the actual narrative element, and you really do feel like you're playing a game where you are a vampire. And I think it's something that doesn't happen very often in games.
It's rare.
It's incredible to see. Yeah,
it's very rare for a game that does that, and you actually have like the real vibe of the character. And you're talking a little bit more of emergent gameplay. And one of the differences that I see with this game versus a lot of other survival games is that if you look at, like, let's say like Rust or Valheim or other games, the map is procedurally generated. And I was actually a little bit curious why you decided to go with the having one map for pretty much the whole game, rather than having it be generated randomly? Is it because of the sun effects, or what, or is it just something that might happen in the future?
Do you want to talk about that, Martin?
I can take it. I mean, we're obviously looking at and improving things to create more replayability in a sense, and those kind of new happenings. But we also think it was very important to kind of handcraft the world, because that will also help us reach like a higher level of polish, and we can kind of tell a story, and we can guide a player through the world in a better way. That doesn't mean we will like keep trying to see what we can do, but that has definitely helped us kind of sell in the whole vampire world, because there's tricky when you kind of go full.
Also, like we did actually have like more of experimenting with more procedurally generated like pieces of the world in the early phases. But the top-down camera also makes it really much harder to navigate the world and find your stuff in the world, because you don't have this horizon. You cannot like see the shape of the mountain where you're going. So we have to spend a lot more like time in trying to like put energy and handcrafting these roads and making sure that like players at least know somewhat where they are going. So that's been like a challenge to design an open world top-down game without an horizon. And I think that's also like one of the reasons where like once we started to handcraft things and everything also aesthetically looked a lot better when you put like hands on it, it came together a lot better with the world. But that said, like we are still like intrigued by the idea of creating a bigger world, like creating a replayability, and maybe there's like ways of combining the handcrafted pieces of our world with more generated content as well to scale up. As like we have this world which needs to host a lot of vampires as well, right? We have top-down building, and we need to fit all players. That was also like a big challenge, because we have some crowded servers. I think we like had one server with over 2,000 players that have like there was no space. Players just built in every single corner of the world, and that was like how many players can one world digest? So it's a lot of things, a lot of interesting level design challenges that we have been facing within this development, and we're still doing, and we're seeing what we will do next to even push and improve the world further.
Yeah, I am curious, like what is coming next, right? So obviously, like from the PvE side, you have all of the different V powers that you're going for. You have what are the other progression loops? You have all of the gear progression loops, and then all of the loops when it actually comes to like gathering new resources. Is that an area where you want to see it go even further, or is it stuff in the world that you're looking to change PvP, or is it like a mix of everything?
I think it will definitely be a mix of everything. What we want you to experience when we have the full launch, the full experience of V-Rising, is that the entire journey will be added things on top of everything. So we're not like looking at just adding like endgame content and increasing the number of things you have to do in the endgame, but rather look at, as we were speaking about, like this emergent gameplay things. How can we add these accesses so that it's fun
with different events and stuff?
Yeah, with different events, for example, with more faction battles, with weather systems, for example, different accesses that we are looking into. Content-wise, I guess it's the simplest answer. It will be there will be more like weapons, spells, we will add more to the current loop. But
we also have. Yeah, you can finish, Peter.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, we also have like getting obviously a lot of suggestions from the community. So we set up a webpage, which is like if you go to feedback.playvrising.com, players can like add their own ideas and you can vote. And those are kind of a good way for us to see like where the community wants the game to head. And like currently, like the top requested thing is to add different, like a second floor or a basement to the castle, and that's obviously a lot of difficulties with our top-down game, which is like both 2D and 3D. But that's something we definitely also kind of feel intrigued about and feel like when looking at the inspiration from Castlevania, you have this kind of gothic cast which rises to the sky, right? So that's definitely an area we want to investigate more in. And
I actually had a question about that because it's a really cool moment when you switch over. I guess it's from wood to stone, and then all of a sudden you close in all those walls, and the roof just actually builds itself. Right, you get the covering for the first time. You don't have to use the bone brazier anymore. I'm not sure if is that how you say? Is it brazier? Is it brazier? I don't know how to say it. You would think that I would, but that moment when you actually do switch over is a very cool moment in the game. And I was curious if the auto completion of the roof at stone, if that was by nature because it was difficult with the top down view to actually have players create their own roof, or if that was something that you just felt like was missing for other games. Like, I'm kind of curious how you guys came up with that idea.
I think like when we designed the castle like building systems, we wanted them to be very like nice to use. Like you should like be able to like move things around simply, like rotate them. And I think that goes into that design of like making sure that it's not too much of a hassle. And building a roof in top down while you want to rearrange your floors, maybe change like the walls and having to like restructure everything because you wanted to like move one wall, for example, is something we wanted to avoid in that phase. So that like auto generation of the roof was like a very nice way for us to just not make it too like difficult or too much of a hassle for the player to like rearrange their castle every time they wanted to change something.
I found it way easier to build in this game. I will say though, my viewers did build my castle, so that was one of the reasons that it was so easy. But it's really cool to see how different castle to castle it does look, even though the roof is auto completing, and it's definitely a very cool moment in the game as well when you hit that for the first time.
There's a lot of people that have asked about having multiple levels. In a lot of games, you can have like 2 and 3 floors for things. Is that something that you think that you'll ever add? So you can make a larger base that just has like 3 or 4 floors?
Yeah, I think we're really intrigued about that idea, and we have like been testing with it internally, and that would also solve some of the like level design issues with the space that is required right now. So
yeah,
we're definitely as we like, and it also plays into the vampire theme, like this big gothic big castle, and we always want to like emphasize on the vampiric feel of the game. So it's definitely something we are intrigued about. But as Martin were saying, it's the technical difficulties of a 2D/3D game that we will need to figure out, and we hope that we will be able to do so.
So one of the other questions that I have I always get really interested in a lot of the systems. So I will say a lot of my questions will probably end up being more PvE focused than PvP focused. But there's some really interesting things that happen as you start to get later and later into the game, where the amount of time it's going to take you to progress and actually craft a piece of gear obviously is going to change. What type of tuning knobs do you guys actually look at? Like, how do you decide this is a good amount of time to actually take to progress the gear compared to a previous tier, to make it feel like it's a more powerful piece compared to maybe being a little bit too slow and potentially having some players back away from the challenge?
It's definitely a big challenge. I've been working very hands-on with the itemization and the drop tables and everything in that regards. And the simple answer is playtest, playtest, playtest. We've been doing lots of internal playtest and get a feel for it, while also like of course looking at some of the data and listening to all players. But it is a challenge because you can play it single player. When you play 4-player, you like more than 4x your speed that you're gathering things, and it's way different if you know the second time you play it and you know all the systems you use the refinements tools that are in your castle, you use your servants that will help you a lot in those regards. So it's we're trying to like learn or teach the player about the different systems as much as we can do, because understanding that refining things and building things and like growing things in your gardens and like getting all those servants will help you quite a lot in reducing the amount of manual grind you have to do. And again, it plays into this. You start out with more as like a lumberjack vampire, right? That's that's also been an interesting challenge. Like the power fantasy meets this like the farmer, right? But you start up there, and in the end, we want you to feel more like this lord, that you're just doing your hunts and your servants are doing the things for you. And it's I think it's been more challenging to teach the players about the importance of these systems rather than balancing the loops themselves.
Yeah, you did a really good job too with the little like story quests too, that kind of like lightly teach you, but it never feels tutorialish. I really like that, where it was just like simple goals where it's like advance your tech tree to the point that you have like you build your castle heart or sit in a throne or actually make a thrall. So I thought that was really cool. And that moment as well, when the first time you actually do go out, you use that power, the actual like vampire mesmerizing power, and like dominate your first villager and bring them back to the castle, throw them in a coffin, and get them starting to do stuff. And you're like, you're my mod now. That is such a great moment in the game. That blew me away, because you don't see that system coming. Like, it kind of comes out of nowhere. How hard was it to actually make that? Because that seemed like it's so different than every other system. Was that like a difficult thing to get off the ground technically?
I guess we've been working on it for like on and off all the time. Since that's something that we kind of want to, it needs to fit the puzzle with all other features, right? And it's also something that we want to keep expanding on in the future. But we feel like that was such a strong point, like just in the vision of converting people, because that's kind of core of the vampire theme. So we knew like we wanted in some form, and it I guess it some part was easy, but just continue to adapt it. Like how does it work with like defending your base? How does it work with like you equipping it with items? Because we felt like that's also a good way to have them feel like you progress by actually investing in them, and also like adding the throne missions, which is a bit inspired of like World of Warcraft Garrison and things like that. And we think servants are super important for the vampires fantasy, and it's something we definitely like want to continue to help out. We've been having discussions like, can they help you organize your stashes, for example? That's like ongoing question and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's
So
that would be very useful for me.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever played a single game where I didn't just have a million of the small boxes sitting around, and they're just like, I stack that one up, I fill it up, I move on to the next one. I've already forgotten what's in the first one, and I don't even know what stuff I have. So yeah, that's a great idea.
I also liked too, because the servants don't check for item durability, right? So instead of repairing gear, you just give it to your servants, and you're just like, I like kept doing that, which was really enjoyable. And then you come back to the server after you have to go do like boring real life stuff. You get back, you're like, it's Morbin time. You jump on, and then everybody else has gotten further, and you go up to the servants, and they have better gear than you, and you just steal it from them. They can't do anything. Which
I think, like one of the very important aspect we talked when we developed this game was actually to have this kind of, when you play with your friends, you usually don't play exactly the same amount of time, right? And a lot of other survival games or MMO and things like that uses like an experience and level system, have that kind of issue where you kind of feel behind, like, oh damn, they are 10 levels above me, I suck, this is boring, I'm gonna quit the game, or I have to get power level. And that was something we kind of really wanted to say, like, no, if you don't have the same amount of time as your friends, they can just give you the equipment and you're on par. Potentially you don't have the same amount of V-Bloods, but you still have like a full kit of spells. So in a sense, you're the same power, but they potentially have more variation and customization. But we felt that was super important, that you shouldn't like kind of constantly feel behind if you're not playing at the same like amount of time. So
you have somebody else playing for you. Yeah, I get that.
It's the tension with like the research system as well, that you share like the things you find in books with everyone in your clan. So that's like also plays into that we wanted you to be able to just share everything with. And if you come on and your friends has been playing, you can open the research desk and see, oh, they got this new tech, and then just learn it, and you're you're on par with them. So that's one of the reasons why we don't have like invested heavily in leveling systems and XP and that sort of things, but rather rely on items and the castle being the primary sort of progression.
Yeah, that is a really good feeling when you get on the server and then you go up to the table, like you said, and it's if they've learned it and you haven't actually researched it yet, it has like that yellow spinning around the rectangle. And
Yep.
that moment is so much dopamine when you go and you see all of it. And usually for pixels like that, I would have to pay $25 for each pixel. So I was very happy that I didn't have to do that. And everybody else just played it for me to get the research table up to the right amount. And I do think it is cool, like you said, that it is the gear that is actually setting your level. It's not necessarily how much you played. So you can come back in, you can hear what everybody else did. They can catch you up on the stories, and then you go out and you do your hunt. So you still have the content to do.
You can immediately play with your friends, right? You don't have to spend a lot of time grinding or anything like that. I do actually want to ask, like, conversely, you know, you have like many different servers, and I don't know if this would even really be possible with V Rising. Are there any plans to have like any level of real account-wide progress whenever you go from server to server, or would that just not really be compatible with like the different types of server accelerations that you have?
It's like it's not been designed that way, as it's very hard
Yeah.
to make that compatible with the current system, since the progression is within your castle and in your items. You would really have to like move in your castle to a different server to have your progression, and for that to work, you would need that space, right? Not something where you could like land your castle on. So there I think there's definitely ways it could be designed technically and level wise to allow for that, but it's definitely a design challenge that would be interesting to like deal with. So it's currently, I would say, we don't have that plans, but it's still an intriguing idea.
Yeah, I would say it's like possible, since obviously we have servers where you can start with progression unlock and you can start with like a preset of gear, and potentially we could allow players to actually say like, I own this item, and if the server allow for custom character or something, they could allow you in with like your inventory and your tech. So I guess it's possible, but it's
also like, since players can host their own private servers and we can't really control what goes on these servers, essentially always have like need to have centralized servers to be in control of players' accounts and stop cheating and stuff like that. So
yeah, I remember I had a friend of mine that had his little sister do Dungeons and Dragons with him and give him like 15 levels because she was technically the dungeon master. So I completely understand why that would not necessarily work out. But I know it's a question that like I thought of whenever I first started playing the game, and I know a lot of other people ask me too as well. So I figured I would ask.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that like another thing with the game that I've really noticed a lot is that like if you look at the PvP and also the different types of servers that people have, you have some servers that are just like completely full loot PvP, and other ones where it's just like a very minimal loss if you lose anything bad or anything like that. And I was wondering, are you ever thinking about having like larger, really like chase item weapons? Because I'm not really sure if there are a whole lot where it takes like maybe 3 or 4 days to like get the materials to craft this, or would that just be a little bit too extreme?
as like something that we're looking for now is what will the end game look like, right?
Yeah.
What's the end game of V Rising? And thematically or in our ambition will be to bring back Dracula. Like that's one of the things.
Oh my
that
God.
will come. So what is Dracula? What is his entity? What is his role within in our universe? I think you can see like remnants of his castle today in like the Dunley farmlands, and that's always been like a vision where we early on like, what is his role? Will you be able to challenge him? Will you be able to become Dracula in the end game? Will you be sitting on the throne of darkness? Like we have these Game of Thrones vibes going on, like and ideas for the different clans fighting for them, but also the different factions, like the undead faction, the militia, maybe the church, like this politics and things that goes on. That was something we're really intrigued about early on in the development, and still are. So I guess that's something that you will definitely see us working on, will be our version, our vision of like Dracula returning to our world and as some sort of big event. And there will definitely be an endgame scenarios there that would add a lot of new cool content.
Very cool.
And
I'm curious. Oh, go ahead, Martin.
no, I said we talked about earlier, like changing like these kind of events in the world, and that's also something, as we also spoke to earlier, like Dracula isn't just the end game. Like his effects on the world will be notable even like early game. So you will definitely, like, that's the vision, that his impact on the world will be something you kind of experience throughout the journey.
I am I'm very curious because you obviously you work on the game for a very long time. Then you put it out into the world, and then a bunch of streamers play it. You get to watch them play it. You get to watch all the content creators play it, and a bunch of other people are playing it as well. And obviously, you get to watch the streamers play. Did anybody do anything where you're just like, "What the heck? How did they do that?" Like, did like Shroud do something like absolutely crazy where you're like, we had no idea players were going to be able to do something like this in PvP? Or did everything that happened, was it kind of as you did expect? Because I feel like that's a pretty crazy leap of faith when it's like, okay, it's in the players' hands now. Let's see what they do.
So like I have a couple of memories. I know like watching Lyric play the game for the first time. It was like hilarious, like the way he played the game and the way he used like the voice chat, because we haven't really, like when we played internally, we're always in Discord, we haven't really been using that feature. And seeing that live, like he's like screaming at people and they like interacting and having this like social experience within the game, and seeing how like how they use this like social aspect of the game, that was one moment that I had so much fun seeing him doing this stuff. And but also seeing like how things that we have designed actually worked out very well. Like he had this I think it was like combat within this animal camp, and there was like arrows going up all over the camp, and bears were like coming out from their cages, and it was just, he was in full control, and then like everything just went bad for him, and it's like this chaos, and seeing that in action, like that was more like one of the design parts. But play testing it internally, when you know everything, you don't know that how it will work out, and seeing that was like a perfect storm, and everything just working the way we've intended. So definitely we've seen both ways, things that are totally, we had no idea, and things that actually work the way we wanted to. And it's equally what is equally fulfilling to see it. Did you have any, Martin, that you can think about?
As you said, we kind of were very open-minded and wanted to be a more of a sandbox world. So I guess obviously there will be kind of exploits and ways to kind of harass player, which is always something we kind of try to look out for. But there's always way to kind of harass people, and those are also things we want to keep looking at, because doing like these multiplayer PvP games, there's always this kind of way how can we create a better play experience for everybody, and just in many other games, it's also ways that you can kind of destroy other people, and that's something that I guess we wasn't surprised about it, but something we need to keep working on. So
I can't think of a single survival game that doesn't have that. Just one way or another, where you wait for the guys to go to sleep and then you break into their base while they're asleep, or something crazy like that. But I don't even know what the possibility would be to stop that from happening. I think it's just the way some servers really are.
Yeah, I think there's always going to be the griefers. It's just how much can we mitigate it with different solutions.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like, honestly, I see a lot of games that have like different systems that mitigate it, but really just making it as an open game and letting people experience it. As I said, like, I think one of the first things, and I'm pretty sure you guys did intend this, but it was like one of the first things I did is I found a stone golem and I had him smash and cut down trees for me. Right? I mean, I'm not a genius here. You planned that?
Yes.
I don't think we planned it. It was more like we wanted them to break stuff, and then you saw like, oh, wait, I can use this to like get all this material, and we didn't want to balance out the fun of it. So it's like, this is fine, this is nice. If people find this and use this as their like machine to like get all these resources early on, then they will just feel happy about it. So just like this, we will leave it in there.
Yeah,
So.
I think same goes for like the V-Blood as you describe, Rich. People like when you can cross this kind of patrols on the way and you have two V-Bloods fighting each other and both are low health and you're kind of sitting there and then you kind of finish and you feel kind of smart about it. And those are kind of things like, do we want to prevent this or is this actually kind of fun experience? And I mean, we feel like all those kind of moments is really, really fun, that it's actually kind of random and can create this kind of ways to kind of feel smart as a player. And those are very important. If you try to balance everything out, it's kind of get a bit stale, right? So.
Yeah, the game made me feel very smart a lot of times, which is saying something. If the game can make me feel smart, it can make anyone feel smart.
Well, I think that. Sorry. Go ahead, Rich.
Oh no, I was just gonna say those moments where you have like that vampire hunter. That guy in particular patrols a lot of the lower level areas, and he
I tried to kill him.
you. Yeah,
Yep,
exactly. And at first, before you really know much about the game, you're like, am I even supposed to ever be able to kill this guy? And he's just sitting there. And then one time he was in combat with somebody else, and I sat back, I let them chip off the damage and killed him kind of early. And like you said, the game actually, that little emergent moment that comes out of the way that they're patrolling, it does make you feel really intelligent as a player. And those are some of the memories that I
it's the
remember
open
most.
world, right? It's like the because a lot of games they try to create the idea of, oh, it's a living, breathing world, and like, oh, the elements are interacting with each other. But one thing I've noticed a lot with V-Rising is that, like, you'll see that even sometimes. I'll be honest, I've tried to aggro like other mobs into bosses because I just couldn't fucking kill them, and so like I just pulled the other mobs into the boss, and just makes it a little bit easier for me. And I've really felt like going around through V-Rising, you see a lot of just NPCs interacting, fighting each other just completely naturally through no consequence of what you're doing. And I found that really does make the world seem like it's more alive and you're more part of something bigger than yourself. And it's not just a game.
Yeah, we're happy that you see it, like, because that was our intention, right? So it's really cool that it's actually working out. Because as you're saying, a lot of game developers, they want to have this vision of this world that is alive, but it's really hard to pull that off. And I think we still have like things that are stretched to go. Of course, you always have, but we do have like a good start. We have some like base function out there, and we'll try to just figure out ways of interacting with it more.
Have you thought about doing like instances at all? Like, for example, like in WoW, I mean, obviously you guys played WoW before, like going into a certain area and fighting off something, or do you feel like the entire game should be mainly like an open world?
I think we obviously talked about it, but it's really hard to say, like, do we want to kind of instantiate your party and say, like, you're safe. If you're inside here, you're safe. No one can come in and steal your kill or whatever. And those kind of slightly go against the core aspect of the game to be this kind of open world. So it's a bit hard to say, like, going that route, I think. But that wouldn't prevent us from, like, instantiating kings, but potentially have them open for more players to enter actually the same area as you. So I think we just have to be very careful to stay true to our core and obviously get all this feedback from the MMO players who want more permanent progression and character development and raid bosses and stuff. And then you have another area of players who want a different route. And I think it's super great to get all this kind of feedback in, but we really need to be like true to ourselves and true to our core, because once you kind of start to listen to everybody, you're on a bit dangerous road, right? So, yeah, I mean, we as a very strong point in Stunlock is that we actually really want to play our game. Like, we do a game that we enjoy playing ourselves, and we play it like as if you stop playing your own game and you try to listen to feedback, you're like on a slippery slope, I think. So.
And yeah, I definitely think it's one of those things too where you kind of have to sit there and parse the information as well and hear what people are asking for, but how you can deliver it while still keeping the core elements of the game there. I also do want to say a lot of people in chat, speaking of people asking for stuff, a lot of people are asking questions in the chat already. We will do questions from people in chat a little bit later on, and you'll just use the hashtag ask. So that way we can organize everything. So you can hold those questions for now, and we will get to them in a little bit. Hashtag ask, ASK. Thank you. But yeah, Asmon.
So I was going to say, like, this is probably a dumb question. You guys have got this probably 200 times. Is there ever going to be a way to have like a free look camera where you can look all the way around?
There's actually like some mods that allows you to have that, and we do have that for debug settings, and we use it for like trailers and stuff.
Oh wow!
So, but it's like aesthetically, the world has been designed with like the top-down view. So a lot of things look really flat if you don't like bring down the camera. So it's more like it's technically it's possible to apply it that way, but it's more of a aesthetic thing, like how will the game be perceived. And some areas look really nice, but some areas look like very like a lot less good, so to speak. So it's more of an art direction thing, but also like the gameplay, of course, like it's intended to be this top-down combat. So but we have a bit like of on a conventional camera scheme, right? But with the top-down where you can rotate your camera. So I get that there's a lot of players asking for like ways of adapting the camera and things for their playstyles to navigate this better. So I wouldn't say that that's not a dumb question at all. It's just a very interesting question to and something that we will have to see what we can do about. Yeah, you see it like on the
video. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm looking at it, and yeah, it does look like you can do it and, you know, be kind of like I guess like first person mode here. Absolutely. I was just kind of nervous about asking a question because I feel like that's probably whenever I played the game and I've talked to other people, that's been one of the main things that they've asked too. So I'm sure you probably got that a lot.
Dude, how did Pecky's already have that up in the back?
He was ready, man.
He's so fast, man. He's so good. Shout out to Pecky's in the back making sure it works. Oh, that was James. Dude, thank you. Dude, we have a full team on Allcraft. It's actually I remember when we actually started everything off at the very beginning, and we were using Skype.
We were using Skype, and we would get calls in the middle of the show, and you know, it would just interrupt the complete show. It was great. And so yeah,
from somebody named Greek God X.
Yeah, Greek God X would call us. You got to Skype.
Never actually him. But yeah, I do. We talked about it a little bit already, but I want to put a little bit more of a focus on it. Just like, what can people expect next? Obviously, some of the stuff you probably can talk about, some of it you can't talk about. But yeah, what can people expect next?
We as we talked about, Dracula is one thing that's always been like in our core vision, and like he will return in a very impactful way, I think, and we want players to be able to challenge him in one way or another, right? We also talked about looking into second floors and basement, those kind of things. We kind of live out the fantasy and creating this kind of castle.
For the castle, as to add on that, like the castle is so central to it. So that the floor thing is one thing, but we're also like seeing how we can get the castle to be more central on, especially on PvE as well. As right now, it's primarily a target when you're playing PvP, where you can raid other players. But currently, there's like no PvE threat. There's nothing that can like invade your castle, and that's also like playing into those survival aspects of actually like having factions that can attack your castle that you have to fend it off. And with that, like adding content such as like expanding on the servants for the combat, maybe traps and stuff that you want to encompass in your castle when they breach your walls. We always like had this ambitions with the castle to stay true to this elegant, beautiful, like Gothic castle. So traps and stuff like that is something we have been a bit cautious about, as we don't want it to turn into like a bunker, basically. So finding a good balance there where we can like really push the PvP elements to make raiding more interesting, but also like giving this thrill of invasion for PvE players. So I think the castle will be a central piece that we will be looking to and on different accesses in how we can improve that experience and add more content to it.
So I saw a question in chat, and I know I'm going against what I said by trying to keep stuff organized, but I actually thought it was a really good question. It was one that I had initially wanted to ask as well, and that is with those the bone brazier, the braziers. I still don't know how to say.
I don't know. I don't know
Yeah,
either.
you typed it in the game, so you already know how to spell it, which is good. So with those, they don't automatically shut off, right? You have to actually like basically turn it off. Now it's consuming bones. It gives you the mist. You're not going to actually die to the sun. It doesn't automatically turn off though during the night. Would you? Is that by design? Did you guys want it to be a thing that people had to actually go and manually turn it off, or do you think one day maybe they will automatically switch on and off?
I think we're a bit cautious here for all these things, as we were talking about stashes as well, like sorting stashes and so on, because there is also like value in being the player that like keeps the house clean and doing those things. So it's like it's a mixed bag where we don't want to automate everything, but we want to find like the right like value of quality of life, so that everyone can enjoy it, so it's not too detrimental to the gameplay loop for the ones that really hate sorting stuff or turning on, turning off switches and so on. So I think like the servant one, for example, that Martin was talking about, allowing them to be like your tidy duty, going around fixing stuff, maybe turning off the brazier, would be a cool way to like add that convenience later in the game as well, so you don't get it all for free.
What's your what's like, so for example, there's like two things I want to ask, but like actually, you know what, I want to ask this right now. So there's a lot of vampire fantasy things. Like we're talking about Castlevania. You're talking about like, you know, you can't move a castle around. You actually could in Castlevania. What is some of the actual vampire fantasy stuff that you want to add into the game? Because I think that is so badass.
I have a lot of vampire fantasies.
Yeah, moving the castle was actually a thing we had in a previous bit.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
You want to elaborate on that, Martin, or?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, Asmon, we kind of felt like when playing other reference game, and it's like just moving is a very tedious task, right? And that's something we will keep looking at, and we have other ideas about that. So that's also a topic for the future. But in a previous version, everyone had their own island, and you basically, there were island slots attached to the edge of the map mainly, and you can like go to a new slot and teleport your entire castle to that island instead. But a lot of issue we felt that was that the castle was too detached from the world. You kind of didn't run into them, and they were all a bit too samey. So eventually we felt like being them in the world and like chasing the world felt a lot better, right? But that was actually part from Castlevania, the series. That was actually the inspiration from testing that out to begin with.
Other things we're like that I would love to look into, or things we are talking about, is like the vampire hunters, how they can play a more central role. Like we would love to see like more famous vampire hunters,
Van
like
Helsing?
yeah.
Okay.
And other as well that could like come in and you can like destroy your favorite vampire hunter within a game. That would be a really cool thing to build upon, I think. And for the theme is something we will when we're like expanding the world as well with the aesthetics and the units. We're like looking a lot of these more horrors, more demons, more. We're talking a lot about like this Frankenstein inspired village or city as well. So we're like, what can we take from, what can we be inspired from and add all this kind of really cool horror themed units into the game as well.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, I love the Castlevania series, and so whenever I heard that you guys were doing some stuff based off of that, I got very, very excited and started thinking about like all of the different things they had in the game. And I think that is so cool to take the different ideas and bring in like the vampire hunters, etc. Do you ever think that, I mean, you talk about vampires, are you ever going to have like maybe werewolves? Can you ever play as a werewolf?
Train would love that. Oh my god.
I mean, obviously this question has risen up like multiple times, and
I bet.
I think we haven't. It's a huge question which will require like a lot of thoughts. Like, how would you like build up your base as a werewolf, and how would that be? And would it be more faction wars, like all the werewolves against the vampires and things like that? So for us, it's been too big topic and not the focus for Alexis. So
I think it depends on like what angle as well. Like if you're seeing, if you're looking at from more like a sandbox angle where you have like more custom game modes or like fun modes where you can have like the vampires versus the werewolves, I could definitely see that as more of like a mod thing. But for the core game experience, I think we will stick with the vampire.
That would make sense because you know the name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would, right?
Yeah, it's not called Furries Rising. They got enough games already. But the thing that my mind instantly, when you start bringing up all that stuff, it is really crazy how packed like vampires are. I start thinking of Buffy. I start thinking of Sam and Dean Winchester. Right, Asmon? You love those shows.
I was thinking more Kate Beckinsale from Underworld, but okay.
Sure. Like there's so many different fantasies. Is there like a moment when you have such a packed lore that it's like kind of difficult, where you talk about a lot of people saying a lot of different things about your game and trying to actually get community feedback? Does it ever turn into this kind of crazy thing where everybody's just like, we need it to feel like Buffy in season 2, and they're like really into their lore and they have this idea of what vampires should be? Or has it been relatively chill to be working within that the vampire lore?
So we have a lot of like work on the narrative that has like led us through the development, but since it's not very little of the narrative is explained to the player, as we're not a story-driven game, right? The players are the story. The players tell the tale of each server. So we've always had like seen that the narrative, the lore is important to guide us, but we've always been like ready to, if we need to change it to make the game better, we are ready to do that as well. So we don't really we don't want to be handcuffed by our own like narrative, but we still want to respect that work and the things that we have created, even though it doesn't like show a lot of it in the game.
I think that makes sense. Yeah, for sure. And you talk about like the players are the story. And I was wondering, like, you're talking about like, you know, potentially summoning Dracula. I don't really see this as something that would probably happen on the first day of a server. So what do you view, like, what is your ideal life cycle of a server? Because, you know, on Tarkov or Rust, you have like wipes and everything gets kind of reset. Like, how long would you assume or want to see a server evolve through different kind of phases?
Yeah, it's like it's something we're trying to figure out right now, because what we feel is that we definitely want to be able to have players like play again and again and again, and there are the community is a part of it is already doing this by hosting their own like private servers, running their own settings, running for like a week to the top and stuff like that. But we also do not want to like reset everyone's cast or everything that they've invested into, unless we have like a big update or something, new content, so that they feel like, okay, we're resetting your stuff, but you will be having all this new cool stuff to dive into when you come back. So it's a balance between like respecting players at least on our official servers, while on the private servers you can do like whatever you want, right? But it's a balance between like, when do we add new content and when do we reset the world? Because once we do add some features, some content, we need to reset the world. Technically, we cannot like change the layout of the world without forcing a reset, right? While there are things that we can fix, we're like hotfixing things right now. But in the long run, we are like looking at a scheme where we will be having like these big updates, and we'll definitely have resets along with them, and then see like, how will this more PvP focused seasons, what will that look like in the end game? That's something we're still trying to figure out now.
Oh, you mentioned seasons. So you're thinking like there's going to be different, like, I'm assuming not necessarily like a Warcraft or League of Legends season or something like that, but where you kind of continuously like buff and change the different abilities, add in new abilities to keep the combat fresh and just kind of keep the game new in the player's eyes?
Yes, so we're saying like once we do hit like a big patch, we will most likely want to reset everything, and with that, you will have to play again and compete like from the get go. And exactly how that will turn out is something that we will have to figure out once we get closer to our first like big update. And we don't really have like any clear answer to when that will hit. But yeah, how we define like a reset or a season semantically, we will just have to see as we go along. But long term, like, yeah, hopefully we'll have like some sort of more controlled space when we figure out like how often do we want to do this, how often can we do this, like how much content do we need to put out for this to be worth it. Like that's a lot of things that we need to figure out over time.
For sure. Makes a lot of sense. And now, guys, I do want to let you know, I'm going to start opening up those questions for you guys in chat. So if you do the hashtag ask and throw in the question, we'll start picking up a few of them here in a few minutes.
I want to do one more question before I'm gonna take the chat's question time. I'm gonna say one right here. Is it so whenever you start playing the game, you pretty much kill the same bosses, you collect the same stuff, and you have roughly like the same leveling up experience pretty much every time, where it's the same types of bosses. Do you have an idea of maybe like kind of rotating that or trying to make it a little bit more dynamic, so you're killing bosses in maybe a little bit of a different order, or you have a more kind of open-ended progression path?
Yes, it's just definitely like one of the bigger challenges is like that replayability. As we have this handcrafted world, we have this very nice linear progression where everything is logically tied together. You have like this archer in the bandit animal camp, and she like gives you the knowledge about tannery. It's all connected, right? So if you would just scramble that, that would like break some of the immersion and some of the logic within the world. But at the same time, for replayability, for sandbox values, scrambling those sort of things, like changing the world layout and the bosses, maybe their levels, would make sense for like it would be a more fresh experience. So it's a bit of like it's a very hard choice there. And today, like we're not sure if we would like can do both of it, but it's definitely something like we want the replayability to be the dynamics. But will it be a static quest line or progression line like right now, and we work more with the aspects around it, the emergent gameplay factors, or do we like actually change up the bosses, introduce maybe new ones, change up what you unlock from each boss, and scramble it more? I guess that is like the harder path to go from a design perspective, looking at where the game is right now.
Yeah, it's almost like a pick one. You can either have a cohesive story or you can have randomized elements. Yeah, I get that. Okay, all right. Now we can do questions. I figured I had to ask that because I know that a lot of people have wondered that, and I had kind of like restarted my character a couple of times, and I was wondering if it would be different or not. But yeah, I mean, I'll have to say, like, I feel like this game, especially for like an early access game, is really, really well polished. Like, I want to say, like, great job, guys. Like, this is insanely good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I started to tell you guys my story before we even we even started the show, but I played the game and all of a sudden I just got completely now I'm gonna sound like I was trying to make a pun, but I got completely sucked into it. And I actually remember I messaged you and I was like, dude, you gotta play right now. Like I got so drawn in by the game, and it pretty much changed the course of my week. And I enjoyed it a whole bunch, and I'm excited to see everything that you guys do. And I'm also excited to see all the questions that everybody has in chat right now. First one's coming in from Thorvald. Are you guys looking into more weapon abilities?
Yes. Short answer.
All right. There we go. You got your answer, Chad.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's good. Are you guys gonna add in like a two-handed greatsword?
There's already a two-handed greatsword on
what
its
the
way.
hell?
On its way.
Oh, I was about to say.
But yeah, well, like the long answer I would say is like we're definitely going to add abilities, weapons, and spells. But we also are looking into like how can we add another axis so that you can actually maybe modify the current spells, modify the weapons as well. So itemization is something that we haven't actually spent too much time on so far, and something that we want to look into further to see to push it not only more content, but maybe add a layer of depth to the current items spells as well.
Okay, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to hear. That's good. All right, we can go to the next question. And yeah, what are some of the devs' favorite Easter eggs in the game?
Ooh, good question.
Okay.
Easter eggs. I'm not really sure. I mean,
I think there's like some of the like text in the crypt door, or like some scribbles from some of the artists, like the names of us. I know there's like a picture that's named like after me. I think like I came across it when we were live. It's like, what? It's like Baron Ilves. Like, what is this painting? Like, so it's always the like artists putting in stuff. Sometimes we get trouble with it because they've been putting in stuff that we're not really allowed to put in there. But
Yeah.
they are a bit more careful right now because we've actually hit that wall a couple of times earlier. But you still find some like fun things that people add when they have
yeah,
some time off to come up with fun stuff.
I'll say also like watching people go into the spoiler alert, the werewolf village, basically going in there during the day and then it turns into night and everyone is transformed into werewolf. Those kind of first reactions, seeing that on stream has been very, very fun and entertaining. So
Yeah, they're just waiting there, have no idea what's going to happen. We'll move on to the next question. We already saw that one. Okay, there we go. Will there be official mod support?
Not something that we're currently looking into. Like we did like ship with a lot of settings and modifiers so that you can adjust your servers, and that's something we'll definitely look into adding even more settings as we go about so that you can customize your experience. But in terms of like total mod control and like changing up things like spells or even like altering the world, that's like those kind of bigger things is currently something that we will be on hold.
Sure.
That's good. It's good that people have the mods too. And like also like one of the big differences between like your game and a lot of other games too is like you have a lot of customization for like each different server. So if you want to run it a certain way, that's kind of already built into the game.
Yeah,
So
it's like controlling that as well. So that once you go into server, like the player also needs to know like what are the settings, what are the admin, what can he do with it as someone else is in control, right? And
yeah, I understand that. Absolutely. There's one question here from chat. I figured I'd just take this one right here. Are there any questions to allow servants to accompany you on your journeys?
I guess that's been also under discussion when we talked about expanding the servant system. But it's a lot more tricky when you try to kind of drag them into the world, because how they kind of react could be in many cases kind of unwanted behavior. So it's definitely in the looks, I would say, or like it's in there to look into when we expand the servant system. But we also don't want to end up in a system where you kind of get kind of annoyed on their behavior, and how you kind of move and act in our game is kind of advanced in a way, making it a lot harder to do a proper implementation where the players are kind of satisfied with their behavior in that sense.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would make sense. Go ahead,
You don't want to like get a thrall and then it starts acting like Mizkif or something stupid like that. It would get you really upset.
It's just running around killing stuff. Like I have that happen in like a lot of games where you have a pet, or like in PoE. I remember whenever one of the leagues came out, I couldn't get my pets to stop attacking something I didn't want them to, and they killed it and upset me. So yeah, I definitely understand how there could be a lot of pain points there very quickly. So it's definitely something that would be hard to balance and hard to code to make it not be annoying.
Yeah, I feel like you would hate that, Asmon. If your pet wasn't doing something right, you would actually have to kill something yourself. So
yeah,
that'd be really bad.
Like especially our core system isn't really designed to trade attacks, which you can see in other like target MMOs or things like that. So just having this kind of constant dodge attack is a lot more advanced.
Okay, that makes sense. We can go to another question and take a look at some of that. And I feel like, oh, here we go. How long do you think early access will last? I feel like this is a question that a lot of people you've probably answered this a million times.
Yeah, I think we don't like have a clear answer right now, but we don't like see any value really to be in early access forever as well. Like for Battlerite, we were in early access, I think, for about 1 year. But it's when we go out from early access, it's more that we want to have like this complete experience of V-Rising. A lot of the things that we were talking about here today is that's the things that we want to add for a full launch. We want to have them in there. Then some of these things may come like in some updates along the road, or it will come later with things more bundled. But I think a lot of the things we've touched is things that we will want to have ready before we like say now it's time to launch the game in official way.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense. And whenever that happens, is it going to come to consoles?
It's consoles always intriguing. Something that we did learn with Battlerite was that once we launched and we had a success with it, one of the mistakes that we did was to take on too much things too quickly. Like we grew the studio very quickly. We like worked with WeGame in China. We like did things in South Korea with Nexon, and we just took on too much that we could handle at that time. So this time we are looking to be more cautious so that we can put our time on the PC version first to not like get stuck in early access forever. But it's like consoles are it's interesting, but I would say that right now we will not like jeopardize too much of our team on doing that type of porting. Maybe that could be like a partnership. We will see, but we're totally focused right now, at least on the PC experience first.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Do you find it's like a struggle whenever you're talking about, like, you mentioned this multiple times, is like trying to maintain like their own like creative integrity and vision for the game, and like now that the game's come out, how much has that really shifted your vision for what you originally planned the game to evolve into?
I think as we were mentioning here, some of the things about Dracula and everything has been here from the beginning, and things that we still like. This doesn't really shift. The thing we do get like all this feedback, and as Martin was saying, it's still like we need to channel that feedback, and we need to stay with the core of the game, with the vision, and not get lost. At the same time, there's so much good feedback and ideas that like are invaluable to us when we like push forward and seeing what people like, what they don't dislike, things that we just need to fix. So it's always a balancing act. But since we've like have a lot of years experience now, I think we're a lot more capable of handling that, of not getting lost or listening to too much to the players, but like valuing it and balancing internally and being more professional about it. So if that answers your question.
Yeah, I think so, pretty much.
Yeah.
I was just curious. Go ahead, Rich.
No, I was just gonna say that makes a lot of sense, and we'll keep moving with the questions that everybody's asking. But yeah, no, I think anytime somebody likes a game, like one of their first reactions, like, "Why can't I play it on my phone?" But it's just like such a huge undertaking, and I think it's really exciting to actually see what you're going to do for that core PC experience. What customization options can we expect to see moving forward? That comes from Dracul TV.
Yeah, I know. Like, this is a fun thing, right? Because the customization has been an important part for us in the fantasy of like you creating your own vampire, right? But when you play the game, you're very zoomed out. You don't really see a lot of these details, but we still find a lot of value in this feature, allowing players to like feel that they're creating something that is theirs. So we will still be adding like more options in like all these things that we have, like hair types, new accessories, stuff like that. From a body type perspective, I don't think we will probably not do too much in allowing you to change your body types, as it affects like the itemizations, the equipment, the things that takes us. It just makes everything go so much slower when we add content, because you have to create like multiple versions of each chest piece and stuff like that. So I don't think that's something we will expect, but we will add content to the existing layers, and there might be new additions as well that will come up during the development.
Yeah, I think it's also worth mentioning, like in terms of customization, when we go to, we were kind of seeing a lot of more RP servers started to be creating, and people like want to exactly like live as a vampire. And we will also look at other ways to kind of improve the role playing experience by we talked about potentially adding transmog. We talked about how can we add more ways to the castle, like can we have ways to play music, ways to kind of create this kind of ballroom potentially, or like making a big dining table where everyone can dine and drink blood, and there's like ideas, and we think it's important to also think about that aspect of the game and see what can we make to create that way to allow people to just live more as a vampire, but also help out with the vampire fantasy.
Yeah, I am curious as well. We'll keep moving with the chat questions, but this is a question that I kind of wanted to ask that I forgot to ask now that you bring it up. And you have such a fully fleshed out PvE and PvP system, right? And I feel like the first thing that I saw as well was people just electronically role playing. Is that something that you expected with the game because of there being vampires? Like, did you expect so many people to be RPing, or was that a bit of a surprise when you actually saw everybody, like so many people enjoying the game in that way?
Yeah, as Peter said, we never done any games with like in-game voice and stuff like that, and just seeing how powerful that is, it was a bit surprising. And also we come from a kind of niche hardcore environment, so getting all these kind of new types of players were obviously something that was kind of new for us in a way, but we wanted to keep the doors open. But definitely,
Yeah, I think that was quite fun as well with the game, as it like attracts these hardcore PvPers, but also these explorers, these role players, these castle builders. There's so many types of players, and we were like, we don't want to negate any one of them. We want to look at like what do they like about it, like what do this role playing community like. It's as what do they want? Like, do they want a way where they can like interact more with their castle? Do they want to interact with their servants? Do they want to have these like rooms where they can invite people to serve like blood in different bowls and stuff like that? Just role play the vampire fantasy, right? So we really want to like encompass all this different to be target players as well, so that there's something new for everyone. So I think there's a lot of focus right now on the systems, right? But we also want to see what players like, how they use the sandbox environment of the game as well.
It's funny just seeing chat right now, just everything that they're bringing up that they would like to see in the roleplay world. I do not think that you guys are adding cat girls anytime soon, though. So chat, you can cool it with that. But we will take a few more questions here from chat. Just please don't make them about cat girls. Most of so this question is coming from somebody that does not seem to be from the role playing community. It seems much more focused on the hardcore elements of the game. Most people use scythe. Will you modify weapons so that they will be as effective as the scythe? So this person,
it's more like a balance question, right? And we're all looking at the general balance of all weapons and spells. I think we did a hotfix like the other week that addressed some of the ability overpowerness. So we're definitely tuning things along the way. Effectively, I think also what with the site, it's interesting because it might be perceived a bit more powerful in the numbers than it actually is when you like calculate it. So I think it's something with that AoE and everything that feels really good to use as well. So it's not always like that the numbers are totally off. It's sometimes it's just also like the feel of it. So, but we're keeping a close eye on it if we're like balancing, making it more juicy with effects or tweaking the numbers to get the right feel in every weapon.
Yeah, I don't think Drakmore played axes before he asked that question. The axe, the axe feels so good. I love the axe. I love the bow a lot too. I really do
use the crossbow. Like whenever you're low level, the crossbow, it seems like it does more damage to higher level targets. So I think I spent about 20 minutes killing a treant at like level like 10 or something like that. It was great. And so yeah, I totally I totally like that a lot. That's usually what I kill most bosses with even.
Yeah, I just love the crossbow too, how much it really does allow you to utilize whatever kit you set up with your spells
Yeah.
too. I mean, obviously you can change that for the other melee focused weapons as well, but just being somebody who likes to use spells typically in games, the crossbow definitely felt like it suited my playstyle. But great question, Drakmore. I definitely do think talking about some of the balance of what we can see in the future is something that's pretty cool. But we got enough time for a few more questions here. I see a bunch of them flowing in, so we'll take another one. Will we see any endgame replayability when it comes to V Blood bosses? Currently, once most bosses are killed, you can kind of forget about them, right? You get that power, and then you don't need to actually attack that boss again.
Yeah, I think for the V-Bloods are actually designed in a way where we don't want them to be like a grind where you like return to them and kill them over and over and over again. Like we have intentionally made them so that people don't stack up around and like just grind to get some items or stuff like that. But we'll definitely look into like more challenges or units for the end game that could be more interesting in more a grind or event based way where with gathering players for moments and fight over the bosses, fight over the like some elite units and stuff like that. But the Wee Blood bosses in the progression loop is intentionally designed to not be killed over and over again.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, especially so you don't want to have people like trying to farm the same stuff over and over and over. Yeah, absolutely. All right, we can do maybe like one more question, maybe two, see what happens. I know while we're going to the next one, I want to ask, do you guys think you're going to have any other different types of mounts in the game?
What can you say the question again?
Oh, sorry. Like different types of mounts, like riding a bear or you know, yeah, I think yeah, sorry, I messed up. Yeah, you're gonna have like different other types of mounts, like maybe a bear or I don't know, like a tiger or something like that. I mean, this is a wow question basically, but yeah.
I mean, we already have seen some like ideas from our art team, which already like concepting on always like new ideas on both units and mounts. So we will definitely have the doors open for things like that. So.
I think it's also we did have in an earlier version you could like ride a wolf and like a bear, but then it also like conflicted with the ability to shapeshift into these creatures as well. Yeah. So we did like we wanted to find a good balance where what can you mount and what can you shapeshift into, because it's like strange to be a bear mounting a bear, for example. So for clarity, like we said, like let's go for horses to begin with. It's very like it's basically like a car from this time, and it's very natural. And let's not go, at least not let's not go with the things that you can shapeshift into. So maybe there will be more things to shapeshift into rather than there will be a lot of more types of mounts. I would say.
Man, if you could shapeshift into a horse, I know Forza would definitely play the game. So that would be something that would be pretty cool to see. But yeah, no, the first moment when you transform into an animal is such a cool milestone as well. I actually don't. I probably shouldn't say all of the animals that you can turn into because I don't want to spoil the entire game for people. Guys, you can check the game out on Steam as well. I did see that the mods were posting the link to Steam in the chat. But yeah, I don't want to spoil all of those moments because there are some that definitely caught me off guard.
First time I was able to transform into a wolf, I thought that was pretty cool. I played it the first time on my second stream, and it just happened. I didn't even know what happened because I'm the kind of person that, like, it can literally be in like big text in front of me, and somehow I don't see it. And they finally told me how to do it, and I thought that was just so cool. So yeah, being able to transform into different stuff is again, it's like more of the fantasy of playing the game, feeling like you're actually part of it and like you're out in the world, you know, more so. And I do think we should take this last question here, which is the question about leaderboards. Do you think that you'll ever have any sort of like global PvP rankings or arena in the game?
I think that's. Go ahead, Martin.
Okay. Yeah, we talked about different ways to kind of potentially expose data through like an API or other things like that basically allow players to do their own PvP ranking or things like that, depending on what they feel like is worth to like, do they want to count kills, do they want to count collecting resources or boss kills and stuff like that. So in a way we kind of want to allow more customization, as we said. Like we prefer to choose solution which allow the players to kind of point the way rather than like do a kind of fixed way that we say this is the way it's intended to calculate. Like if you say so,
it also like I would also add like it depends on how well it ties into the core loop. And it's been on like something we have been touched upon, like when for the return of Dracula, for example, will there be some sort of like point or reputation system of being Dracula? Can you claim that power from another player, and then how long can you stay Dracula before someone else steals it from you? We already kind of have that in a small way today. By in the end game, you can claim these soul shards, and there can only be one of each type, and you can bring them to your castle and defend it. But on top of that, if we could have like a score or a system that would actually like have a more of a end game goal, so that you can actually win the server, that and if that could tie into this end game, I think that could be like a cool thing for this more hardcore players who just want to go at it and play it more like a full playthrough, and let's see who wins it, and then we go at it again, right?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense for sure. And like adding in an arena or like a ladder system also adds in its own kind of problems, because, you know, we were talking about earlier the scythe, and as soon as people decide that one weapon is better, and then everybody's all using that weapon, and it just becomes very formulaic. So I can see that being a double-edged sword, absolutely.
Yeah, not to be punny, but yeah, definitely it is one of those things where the wonder of the game is one of the things that keeps it being so fun. The meta is kind of one of those things that can put a lot of pressure on development for sure. I was super excited to actually get to chat with you guys today. Peter and Martin, thank you for coming on the show. It's also very cool to get to hear somebody, you know, started off as a World of Warcraft player, now out in the world making games. Thank you guys for coming on today and sharing everything with us.
thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you. It's really fun being here, talking to you guys.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. And again, if you want to be able to follow V Rising and play the game, it's on Steam right now. I think actually, isn't it on sale? I'm pretty sure it is. And so you guys can just pick it up and play it out. And there's plenty of videos on YouTube if you want to look at some gameplay firsthand and see for yourself. But yeah, I played it myself. Rich has too, and it's a pretty good game. I enjoyed it a lot.
I'm playing it again tonight, boys. So that is that is definitely the plan. So you guys can check that out too during the after show that we're going to be doing tonight, where you can obviously ask me and Asmon any questions, just like every week, whether they're about V Rising or about anything else. I don't know what else you would ask us about, but pretty much anything is on the table, right, Asmon?
Pretty much anything. Not anything though. Unless it's more questions about why I didn't play Final Fantasy today. You know, that's about it. Everything else is totally okay. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. As I said, I want to finish the game. Now that you're talking about the Great Sword, I'm very, very interested. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And we do have one announcement here that we want to, Rich has been working on, etc. And we'd like to show it to you guys and give you a peek of what's about to be happening.
Please, you have to help me. I've been stuck on this island with no food, water, more importantly, viewers to inflate my sense of self-ego. Oh no! Do you know what the worst thing is? Is it June or July? On June 13th, Baja Blast and Baja Zero Sugar are releasing for limited times only. And if I don't get off this island, I'll never get to sip the sweet ambrosial flavors of Baja Blast and Baja Blast Zero Sugar. And their two new limited flavors, Mango Gem and Baja Gold. No! Wait, what's that? I'm saved. It's a bottle Baja Blast, and there appears to be a message inside. Like. Ah!
Wait, you know the line? Don't take it out yet if you don't.
It says, fans can grab specially marked bottles of Baja Blast to enter for a chance to win $1,000 daily on treasuresofbajaisland.com/do. Thank God you're here. Wow, that sounds like a great opportunity for some self-promo. What would Mizkif do? I know, he would announce another game show. That's right, we're announcing OTK's newest game show in partnership with Mountain Dew Baja Blast. And I'll be your host, me, RichWCampbell.
Oh, I can't believe they approved that.
Me neither. I've actually been taking acting lessons with my significant other, but I'm upset because the part that he used is me getting ready to cry. I did start crying, and I thought that he would edit out me warming up, and it would just end with me crying, but he used the outtake as the take. But yeah, I got a game show.
Yeah, great. All right, there we go. When is the first episode?
Tuesday. Yeah, it's literally
Holy
Tuesday.
Shit, it's oh my God, I didn't realize it was this soon.
Wait, Pecky, what'd you say? Tuesday at 5 CT.
Okay.
As you can tell, a lot of people behind the scenes help make this possible, as we're literally having production in our ear telling us what time it's live. So yeah, it's gonna be every Tuesday at 5. And guys, there's a bunch of secret stuff that I can't even announce yet with the game show, with the format. It's going to be a little bit different than some of the OTK shows that we've done in the past. We have a lot of cool ideas for community involvement, some cool ideas that I was told not to tell you guys about. There are a lot of ways that you guys can actually get involved. And the show itself, we actually, to give you a little bit of behind the scenes, we actually developed the game show itself for this one almost a year ago, and we've just been waiting for the right time. So I'm pretty excited to actually do it. And Asmon definitely should come on the show sometime.
Imagine me coming on the show. Wow, that would be crazy, wouldn't it? Yeah, I think I'll probably do that, guys. Of course I will. Gentlemen, I want to say thank you all so much for watching today. I really fucking appreciate it. We had a great show. We had a lot of fun. And I think we're going to be back on Saturday, and maybe we'll play a little bit of Final Fantasy 14. Imagine that. I really can't at this point. So yeah, we'll play a little bit more of that, and absolutely, and maybe do some other stuff too. So thank you guys so much for watching. We're going to be going on over to Rich's stream and doing some of the after show, taking some of your questions, everything else like that. Thank you guys so much for watching today, guys. I really fucking appreciate it, and I will see you guys over there on the after show. Until next time, boys. Peace.